Hello, it's been quite a while. Linda and I have always found it very difficult after the TV show. Even if I wasn't participating in doing the videos last year, I edited them for her. And the whole process is, she's staying up late, she's getting all these things done. It knocks us out. So you saw our earlier video about the Culture Fly box, and as we promised, we're going to try and do more ice and fire related videos, but this one is kind of there, but kind of not, because one of the last videos we did, as I recall, we had been after Worldcon, right? It was before Worldcon, and we had promised that we would do a video about going to the convention in Helsinki and sort of meeting George there, talking with him, what we learned about anything. So that was back in August, so it's been a few months, but I thought that I could just quickly run down through the convention, what it is, what we did, and who we saw, who we talked to, going all the way up to, the Hugo Losers Party, which is a tradition that George and his friend Gardner Dozois started years ago, and George has decided to try and revive it. So you had a completely star-studded, well, within the SFF genre, field of people. All the big names were there at this huge party, and including David Benioff and Dan Weiss. Sibel Kekilli was also there. She presented an award. So I'll talk a bit about that for those who wondered. There's kind of all sorts of silly rumors running around about George and his relationships with them, and we'll address that. I'll address that in this video. August of last year was the Worldcon in Helsinki. It was the 75th annual Worldcon convention, and it's the World Science Fiction and Society. Is it World Science Fiction and Fantasy Society, World Science Fiction Society? Either way, it's completely fan organized. It is volunteers. It is not a for-profit organization, and it's the biggest sort of science fiction fantasy literary award out there. You have many days of panels, tracks, academic tracks, regular tracks. You've got costuming tracks, all these cool things. And this was our fourth Worldcon. The first was Glasgow, then we went to Anaheim, then a long break until we managed to go to London, and now this one. First time visiting Helsinki, lovely. Reminded me a lot of Sweden. There's some Nordic architecture. It's not all that different, but great food, great time. Got to see a lot of our old friends, people from the A Song of Ice and Fire forum, the Brotherhood of Banners that we've known for approaching decades at this point. It was really a good time. And what did we do? I mean, you go to panels. There's panels from authors discussing various topics. There's readings. There's a masquerade. There's Renaissance, or is it maybe it was Regency dancing. There's panels on comics, and there's video screenings and film screenings. It's great, and if you love science fiction, fantasy, literature especially, but film, there's room for that. If you just love the science behind things, you've got a lot of scientists who are themselves science fiction fans who come to these things. In fact, there was a really interesting panel. It was one of George's panels, and I can't strictly recall the full details, but there was it was good fun seeing George hang out with people talking about things like the fantasy and geology, like how Middle Earth, for example, Tolkien's Middle Earth has drawn some criticism from geologists. Says that it's clear that Tolkien wasn't familiar with sort of, I guess even at his present time, the geology and such. So there's weird mountains and things. And it was all good fun. It wasn't anything super critical, but it was interesting to see people talk about all these things, and that was great. Hanging out with friends are great. But George, we actually saw him right in the first day. Got our invitation to the Hugo Losers Party, and then after that, since we were going to be on a panel ourselves, we had access to the green room, and we ended up finding George in the green room, and hung out with him for like half an hour before he went to his first event, which was, I think, as I recall, was the Tea and Jeopardy. I think it's this podcast that actually has the video that has been posted on YouTube. I think I've linked it before. I'll try to remember to link it after. Good fun. Was George talking all sorts of things. And what do we talk about? I mean, just catching up. Paris couldn't make it, so that was a shame. As his wife, and she's as much of a an old fan as George is. We did talk about Fire and Blood a bit, but George was, talked a bit about the parameters of what he wanted to do with it. But for the most part, as we've said before, he wrote a lot of material through the regency of Aegon III that you only saw a portion of. In The World, Ice and Fire, you saw Aegon's conquests. The Princess and the Queen, you saw a part, but not the whole, of the Dying of a Dragon is what it's called. The Rogue Prince has a bit of the heirs of the dragon, and I think no, it doesn't really touch on to the Dying of a Dragon, but it covers sort of the heirs of a dragon, and so you've seen that. But there's more material. But I mean, and Sons of a Dragon, of course. Sons of a Dragon has the Maegor material, and that was pretty complete. But you haven't seen, especially the Aegon III material, which was quite lengthy. You haven't seen much of the Jaehaerys material. And Jaehaerys is actually a point where George said, yes, that's one area where basically the Sons of a Dragon ends with Jaehaerys' crowning. And then the Heirs of a Dragon kind of zooms along, briefly covers his reign, but mostly focuses on the two big inheritance situations that he faced with his, especially the Great Council, and the way that it laid the underpinnings for the dance that came after. But there's a long, I mean, it's the old king, the conciliator. He ruled a long time. There's a lot of material to fill out, and George has worked some on just fleshing out a bit. But after that, it's basically all done. For all I know, he's finished on what he was going to do with that. And the book looks like it's going to be scheduled for later this year, almost certainly. It will be illustrated. I'm pretty sure we'll reuse some of our illustrations from The World of Ice and Fire. And there's room, obviously, to incorporate new images. And that's it, really. I mean, we also talked a couple of sort of continuity issues that had risen up. What I could talk about is, I've mentioned it before, is the whole Gerardus, this maester, archmaester, who's supposed to, Grand Maester, who's supposed to have been executed according to Stannis, and I think it was Stannis. Pretty sure it was Stannis, or maybe it was Varys. And in any case, he kind of didn't appear, and then we fixed it. We fought, but then George, when he put out the Princess and the Queen again, he did a different thing, but didn't mesh with what we had intended. And so we're going to try and get that sorted out once and for all. He had some ideas. We talked about a good bit about his ideas about how to deal with that. So, and as far as Fire and Blood goes, our involvement, I've said, George is the author because of that material he wrote. And it is, we have our comments already on the initial manuscripts, and we're going to be looking again at some of the things. People have brought up some good points about Sons of a Dragon. Sons of a Dragon, we put in comments for George about various issues, and people have brought up some of the same issues, and they've missed some of the others that we brought up. But those issues are things that, again, George has the notes for, and we're going to try and get them sorted out for sure, perfectly this time. Obviously, our Maester Yandel, his issue is that he is working off sources. He's not a contemporary, and neither was Gildain. So if there are differences between texts, just look at medieval manuscripts. You'll see lots of variations. You'll see lots of different versions of the Bible with various differences in them. So hopefully we will get it as, in the sense that when Fire and Blood is published, this will be a pretty good copy of Gildain's text, with his errors in it. His areas where he's not certain about things, he says so. There are people on the board who were very bothered by some things where George kind of just elided, or Gildain elides, and he doesn't bother explaining certain things. And I feel like if you look at any actual medieval history, you're going to see this rife with this. And I think George deliberately, and we certainly deliberately, for our part, when we did World of Ice and Fire, tried to think about where is a maester, what is he going to care about? What are the things that matter? What are the things he has sources for? So if he doesn't have a source for it and he doesn't know something, does he spend a page speculating, or does he decide, well, it's not that important to me anyways, I'm just going to skip it and go on to the next thing? So it's going to be an interesting text in that it's all going to be written pretty much in the same style as Sons of a Dragon, Princess and the Queen. Although the Princess and the Queen was fairly heavily edited by Gardner Dozois, and that introduces its own issues. But what you're going to have is a history that is presented as a Maester's history with all the imperfections and the uncertainties that that will entail. I've seen really interesting theory recently on the board, or maybe it was Reddit, I don't know, somewhere, about Gildane being, in fact, a plant who was involved in making sure that Summerhall happened. And, you know, read it and see what you think. So later this year. That covers Fire and Blood, and I think we'll go on to sort of discussing just the kind of the denouement, the end of the whole Worldcon with the big Hugo Awards and the Hugo Losers Party. The Hugo Losers Party, big tradition, big fun. George and his assistant Rhea found a fantastic location for it. The Steam Helsinki, I believe it's called. It's a basically steampunk themed bar. Great staff working in the bar. It was an open bar. It was, you know, George was footing the bill with, I believe, the San Jose Worldcon. I guess they're not really, are they still called the bid party? Not the organizers of the San Jose Worldcon, which is this year's Worldcon actually, and big event, great fun. David Peterson was there. We actually ended up hanging out with him the next evening on a big sort of Brotherhood Without Banners dinner. Was it the next evening or was it previous? No, the next evening. Where we went to some Viking themed place. It was good fun. And Sibel Kekilli was there because she presented an award, and David and Dan were there. In fact, they were already there when we arrived. We got, I mean, you know, I'm going to share it. George and the San Jose people had arranged for shuttles to take the guests, like invited guests, to and from the event, and we got into the first shuttle and had Robert Silverberg there, and like Silverberg is one of the grand masters of science fiction. He has been around. The man is ageless. He has been around many decades. Easily more than half a century. In even more, I'm thinking actually it's closer to 60 some plus years at these Worldcons, and as part of the community. And he's a great writer, great man. One of our favorite panels was a talk with him early, I think on the first day as well. Fantastic. And I've admired him for ages, and it was wonderful to kind of be able to chat with him and sit, on the way and talk about the award ceremony and opinions about various things. A sort of a book of a sort of interviews with him was one of the nominees for the nonfiction. I didn't win, but it was really good fun. So we arrived there, fantastic, already getting crowded, lots of people. David and Dan are already there, say hello. They say hi to George when George arrives a bit later. Mostly, I admit they hung out mostly with Sibel Kekilli, and I'm guessing her boyfriend, partner, husband, I don't know the situation, for a while, until like the cake came out. There was this amazingly designed cake, which I believe Rhea helped design, had ideas for it. Sort of like a spaceman and a rocket, and had steam, or I guess it was dry ice being used as smoke. It was an amazing cake. It was I've never seen anything like it. And we just hung out with a lot of friends. The publishers of the Finnish editions of A Song of Ice and Fire were there. Hung out with them. Met their daughter earlier in the convention, and when we had first, she was a toddler. Not a newborn, but a toddler. She was a baby when we first met her. She was back in 2005, and now she's grown up, and time flies. And so people talk stuff about. I know there was something or some insider claim, but there's some huge rift between David and Dan and George, and like on a personal level, no, they were smiles. They were. And they're not like over is all these people looking at us. They were literally off in a corner chatting and talking and not paying attention to what people were doing. And then actually at one point I was sitting with George, Carrie Vaughn, the writer, and a couple other people, and Dan came over. George introduced us. We said, oh, we've met and chatted. It was nice. It was perfectly, everything was fine in terms of the public personal relationship. If they have professional things, whatever, that is, it's professional. It's not like, George is raging at them and stomping around and whatever. So I don't really understand where this stuff comes about. I think realistically, even if we know from things George has said in public, in interviews, that they've made decisions that he doesn't agree with, it's a professional thing. And at the end of the day, he signed the rights to them and they've done what they've done with it. And he's reaped certainly a lot of benefits. That Hugo Losers Party, which was magnificent and huge and open bar, was one tiny example of the benefits that George has had from it. So no, there's not some George isn't going around saying he wishes he could murder them or wishes he hadn't given them the rights. He's too many possibilities have opened up for him and for things he cares about. The theater that he has, or the sort of the production facilities he's opening up to lease at low rates to encourage production of films and television in New Mexico, and all these the scholarships that he's recently been posting about, what he's made to writing groups like the Clarion and Odyssey, I think is another one, or the name of one of them. But anyways, so no, George is happy with the money. He's happy with the fame and recognition. He's happy with the possibilities, and he's happy that these two guys have managed to go the distance with it, and they've made something of it. And now HBO is looking at 5 possible successors. One probably is going to be made. If they don't find one they like, they'll just look for more ideas until they find something, because they're not going to let go of this potential franchise cash cow. We did talk a little bit about that, but George, he can't say too much about it. He's seen sort of the pitches, initial pitches, kind of that the various writers have made, but not their like pilot scripts or whatever. Yes, he's working closely, in particular with Brian Cogman, but he's available to all of them, and it has worked. So with some more than others. And we'll see. He had no idea when HBO would, he had no idea. He didn't offer, at least he didn't offer when HBO would finally make a decision. But I'm going to guess that they're not going to want to distract from the next season. So I'm going to guess that that's something that gets revealed next year sometime. I don't think they're going to decide, not in a public way anyways. I could be wrong. I don't know. Anyways, it was a great time. Worldcon is a fantastic event, venerable event. It may not appeal to people the same way that some of the for-profit conventions like Dragon Con or these various media cons. You don't get many, celebrities. Like you get science fiction literary giants there, but you don't necessarily get stars of stage and screen. George has in the past managed to get some cast members or various people there, and certainly 2018 San Jose, California, who knows who's going to be around in California in the summer from the actors, so I wouldn't be surprised, or or the writers, if we get someone to show up. But go there because you love fiction, you love the literature, you love the idea of science fiction, you love the idea of fantasy, maybe you want to meet the authors. 2019, very exciting. It's going to be in Dublin. Linda and I are absolutely going to be at that one. And just like 3, 4, 5 days, I forget exactly, right after basically, is the Worldcon, which every year there is a wandering convention. It's the European conventions for science fiction and fantasy. We were at the last one in Barcelona. Well, the last one, we were at the one in Barcelona. I forget if Dortmund has already happened or will be happening. I've lost track. However, Belfast, which the Titan Con, which has been this fan-produced yearly convention for Game of Thrones fans with a literary night, and it's good fun. I've been to it once. they are going to be hosting in a different facility, a larger facility, the Worldcon for that year. So literally you could spend a week in Dublin hanging out with people and then go see Northern Ireland. And it's gorgeous. Go look at our videos from Northern Ireland where we did a tour with, thanks to Tourism Ireland. Gorgeous place, wonderful people, great food. The steaks we had were fantastic. And just check it out. We're definitely going to Dublin. We would very much like to go to Worldcon as well. It's just we have a dog and we may actually have a puppy as well at that time, so we're not quite sure how to work it out. But we're gonna try and figure it out. Actually, you can hear a puppy sighing or a dog sighing. So 2019 is gonna be really exciting. 2018, Lynn and I are not going to Con Jose. It's too far for us. European conventions are far more convenient. But George will certainly intends to be there at Con Jose. And well, it's not called, I should stop calling it Con Jose. Con Jose was what it was called when they last hosted the Worldcon. It's I don't know what the name is now, but it's the San Jose Worldcon. Check out, I'll try to remember to link the website so people can check it out. They wouldn't have a program this early, but you'll see some of the guests. And you can even probably look at the list of people who've signed up and see if any offers you recognize are there. But that should be a good fun. If you've never been to California and you want to look around, obviously you want to visit San Francisco, do visit Monterey Bay Aquarium. I grew up near there for many years. Love the place to pieces. I would love, that's the only thing. I wish I could go to Con Jose, but it's just too long a trip. I mean, it's like 9, 10 hours, 11 hours, 12 hours. I don't know. It's a long trip. And the whole security hassle in the U.S. doesn't, and I say this as whose father works for TSA, it's too much for me. But we'll see. We'll hopefully see people at the Dublin Worldcon in 2019, and perhaps even at the big Worldcon in Belfast. Belfast, of course, the home of Game of Thrones filming. 2019, it'll be wrapped up. The studio will have been given over to something else, but there should be things to see. That tapestry might possibly still be around. This gorgeous tapestry with Tourism Ireland made. The doors that we covered in our videos, again, look at those, should still be around. Certainly the locations, all those things will still be there. So we'll see if we can get another video soon. I have an idea for one, but we'll see if I can get it done. Until then.